Order this regular meeting of the City Planning. Wait just a few minutes, folks.
Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the Planning Commission will begin with a few introductory remarks. The City of Sioux Falls Planning Commission serves as an advisory board to the City Council. It is the responsibility of the Planning Commission to consider and make recommendations on land use and zoning matters. Actions taken tonight on conditional use permits are final unless appealed to the City Council in writing within 5 days. And any actions taken tonight on final development plan design review or minor amendments are final. Any recommendations made on preliminary subdivision plan requests tonight will be referred to the City Council for final actions at the third council meeting of this month or at the first council meeting of next month if associated with a zoning or major amendment. Any recommendations made on rezoning requests, major amendments, future land use amendments, or ordinance amendments tonight will be referred to the City Council for final action at the first council meeting of next month. Council meetings are held at 7 p.m. here in the Carnegie Town Hall and are televised. The Planning Commission will first approve the consent agenda and then the regular agenda. In order to place certain non-controversial items on the Commission's consent agenda, planning staff and the Planning Commission apply the following criteria. First, the request conforms with the Shape Sioux Falls 2035 Comprehensive Plan. Second, planning staff recommends approval of the request. Third, there are no audience members present or written comments received in opposition to the request. And fourth, the application meets all conditions and requirements of the Sioux Falls zoning ordinance. For the regular agenda, the following normal public hearing procedure will be followed for each item. By first requesting planning staff to present a brief report on that item. Second, the petitioner or a representative will be requested to come forward and make a statement or answer questions. After the petitioner has spoken, anyone from the audience who wishes to address the agenda item shall be recognized. Then the Planning Commission will discuss the matter further and take appropriate action. We ask that anyone addressing the Planning Commission move to the podium microphone and identify themselves for the record. Please limit your comments to less than 5 minutes. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, we ask that you please either turn off or silence your electronic devices. This meeting is being telecast on CityLink and will be rebroadcast Friday at 7 p.m., Saturday at 10 a.m., and Wednesday at 1 a.m. Thank you for your cooperation.
Good evening and welcome. I call to order this regular meeting of the Planning Commission. Before we get started with our agenda this evening, I'd like to make an announcement. Planning Commission meetings are always the first Wednesday of the month. Starting in the month of November, we are going to start our meetings at 6 p.m. rather than the 7 p.m. time. So for you folks that spend a lot of time down here, watch the time next month. And for you folks watching, we will be moving from 7 o'clock to 6 p.m. At this time, the Planning Commission will approve the consent in regular agendas. I will start out by reading the items on the consent agenda. Item number 1 is the approval of the September 5th, 2012 meetings of the regular meeting. Number 2 is approval of plats. Number 3 is a rezone from the C4 Planned Commercial District to the C2 General Commercial District for allowed uses at East Arrowhead Parkway and South Powderhouse Road. Number 4 is a rezone from the I-1 Light Industrial District to the C2 General Commercial District for allowed uses at 3001 North Louise Avenue. Number 5 is a major amendment to revise the initial development plan, expanding Subarea C, Westwood Valley Plan Development District at West 32nd Street and West Brook Drive. Number 6 is a conditional use permit in the C2 General Commercial District to allow motor vehicle sales in a commercial parking lot at 2300 West Madison Avenue. Number 7 would be a conditional use permit in the C2 General Commercial District to allow on-sale alcohol at 301 South Minnesota Avenue. Number 8 would be a conditional use permit in the RD residential district to construct multifamily housing at 435 West 3rd Street. Number 9 be a conditional use permit in the I-1 Light Industrial District to operate a recycling processing facility at 3509, 3511, and 3601 West Team Drive. Number 10 would be a conditional use permit in the C3 Central Business District to allow on-sale alcohol at 202 South Phillips Avenue. Number 11, a conditional use permit in the I-2 General Industrial District to allow a stockyard for marketing and distribution of hogs at 901 East Rice Street. Number 12 would be a final development plan to Subarea G, Dolly Farm Village Plan Development District, to construct a restaurant and retail strip center at 600 South Highland Place. Number 13 would be a final development plan in Subarea B, Thielen Business Center Plan Development District to construct a parking lot at the southeast corner of the intersection at West Cayman Street and North Potter Avenue. I would first ask staff if there was any changes in the consent agenda. Seeing none there, is there anyone in the audience that would like to pull one of the consent items off the consent agenda to be placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none, I would ask fellow commissioners, is there any item on the consent agenda that you would like placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion
I'll second that.
and a second. All in favor will signify by saying yes.
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 All opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were here for a consent agenda item, you're more than welcome to stay, but you certainly aren't obligated to. I would now move to the regular agenda. Would there be a motion to approve the regular agenda?
Mr. Chair. My name is Steve Randall with the City Planning Staff, and I have a request from the petitioner for item 18 to defer that item to November.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular agenda with deferral of item number 18.
We have a motion. Would there be a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor will signify by saying yes.
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 All opposed? The regular agenda is approved. Doesn't leave an awful lot of people here, but we'll start with item number 14.
Hey, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brent O'Neill. I represent the Community Development Department here at the city. If it's all right, both items 14 and 15 are related. I'd like to present both of them, but would ask if the Commission would vote on them separately.
That would be fine, Brent.
Okay, thank you. What I'm here to talk about tonight is the proposed creation of tax increment district number 17. It's related to a property north of 229, south of 41st Street, and then between Western and Minnesota Avenues. More specifically, it's right off of Grange Avenue at the site of the former Williams pipeline property. We first started discussing this project several months ago. It was either late 2011 or 2012 when the Dunham companies talked to us about developing this property and some options for working with the city on that. Here now in October is kind of the culmination of those conversations, making this recommendation for the creation of a tax increment district. The site in question, has been underdeveloped or undeveloped for some time. I know by some definitions, people would argue it's blighted or it's unbuildable due to the environmental conditions. But regardless, it has been some time since a property like this has developed. We've brought a few different tax increment districts. Can you get this for me, Steve? Thank you. We brought tax increment districts before you in the recent past, but going back to TIF 10, I just wanted to pull out a few bullet points and give a 15-second refresh of that. Under any TIF district, existing taxes are going to continue to go to taxing entities. We're only looking at using increment on projects to put into eligible project costs. Statutorily, we're limited to 20 years of using a TIF. And one of the benefits of TIF in the long run is once a project and TIF has expired, those new taxes go to those taxing entities and help out in that way. As a reminder, under state law, we bring TIF project plans and TIF boundaries first to the Planning Commission, ask for your recommendation to bring them forward to the City Council. So that's what we're here to do tonight. In a real high-level snapshot, just projecting out what a TIF would look like in this area, we've got, as far as the taxable value of the property, relatively low given its size. That has a minimal impact and a minimal generation of property taxes to the various taxing entities that are affected by this project. Development of this property, has the potential to increase the value significantly. We are estimating $30 million plus if the 30 acres are fully developed. That amounts to, between $500,000 and $600,000 a year in an annual property tax increase. In looking at this particular site and potential projects, we are looking at what those eligible costs would be, both under statute and under city policy and guidelines. In general, all capital costs related to some of the site development and infrastructure work would be eligible. Environmental costs, some of those extraneous costs that I've listed here, such as financing, land assembly, and so forth. When we have been working with the property owner and the various partners that might bring this project to fruition, we really felt that nothing above and beyond environmental was what should be looked at this site. And that takes a project that might have had $8 or $10 million in eligible expenses down to, and what we're calling kind of a worst case scenario of $5.4 million in environmental costs. And why I call it worst case scenario, because there's a strong estimate of what the costs are going to be, but unfortunately due to site testing as you're turning soil over and so forth and understanding how you have to treat it or do you have to dispose of it, there's a little bit of unknown as far as what the actual costs are going to be. So $5.4 million is a worst case scenario. And then what has been a little bit of standard practice in at least putting TIF plans together is to making sure that that projects that might be city responsibilities that may or may not come at the beginning of the project, that there's a little bit of wiggle room in the TIF at the expiration or towards the end of the TIF to maybe do some infrastructure. So it's there's another item in here that says some corresponding city infrastructure is listed as an eligible item. Putting this project together, the Dunham companies in partnership with a large retailer have proposed doing commercial and residential development on this site. Big box on the commercial side, 250 to 260 residential apartment units on the other side. It does develop a contaminated and difficult to develop site. You know, in addition to the economic benefits that a project like this can generate, you know, there are those added benefits of being able to clean up a contaminated site within our city. It also promotes goals of infill development by looking at properties that are in the denser core parts of our city and ensuring that those properties can be properly developed. If a project like this comes together, there's going to be upwards of $50 million in private investment that goes to making the project a reality. In looking at the TIF and the TIF participation in a project like this, we've worked out a scenario where the TIF could pay, again, environmental only, but we would further limit that to 85% of the actual costs and capping that number, as you see, at $4.9 million. In a scenario like this, again, if you recall from a few slides ago, the maximum authority that we have to keep a TIF active is 20 years. This TIF, given the incremental property value and the incremental property taxes, does have the potential to pay off this TIF obligation much sooner. You know, on a fairly liberal side, I mean, it could be 9 or 10 years. On a more conservative side, it's going to be 12 to 15 years. But regardless, we feel that this certainly is going to be a shorter time frame than other TIF districts that we have worked with in the recent past. Some final considerations, you know, tax increment financing is a tool that we can use to offset some of the extraordinary conditions of development. In this particular case, those are related to a certain amount of the environmental conditions left by the abandonment or the closure of the Williams pipeline tanks. TIF 17 is proposing that all financing related to the upfront cost of TIF be financed privately, that is through the developer and the property owners, and that any commitment is paid back over time and reimbursed as actual tax increment revenue comes in with annual property taxes. The property, well, you guys know this well, the property came to the Planning Commission for some rezoning in the past several months. It's now properly zoned for the development that's being proposed here. Both the projects and the improvements in the plan do fall in line with the comprehensive plan for 2035 Shape Sioux Falls. We are drafting our plan in compliance with the state statutes. And as a final note, if the Planning Commission does recommend this go forward, we would be bringing it to the City Council on October 16th. You know, and just a real brief summary, it's for some of the reasons outlined here, in particular the environmental costs that could be significant here. You know, there are economic benefits, but we do remediate a site that does have residual contamination, as well as promote some infill development in our city. And for that reason, we're asking for your support to make this recommendation on moving both the TIF district boundary and TIF district plan forward to the City Council.
Brent, thank you for the update and explanation of TIF and how it works.
You bet.
Fellow commissioners, would you have any questions of Brent?
Mr. Chair? Yeah. Brent, I have one for you. The way you explain it, the reimbursement comes from after the tax increment is paid to the city. It's a reimbursement of those funds that are because of the excess or the improvement in the land. If they generate $5 million of TIF-related expenses up front, that's not paid all at once. That's paid as the tax revenue comes in?
Yes, yeah, we'll pay it over a period of time. The developer is responsible for any of those up front.
Okay, thank you.
Brett, I have a question for you. Typically, we have a more confined timeline. It's going to be a 10-year TIF, 15-year TIF. This, it's a little loose. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me why that is and why
Sure.
we don't have it more narrowed down?
Yeah, the main reason is the environmental costs on such a large site without being able to do a soil boring every 10 feet. It's hard to know the total cubic yards of soil that's got to be moved, the number that's got to be cleaned, the number that's got to be hauled off site, and the costs of doing that many borings are sort of counterintuitive. So in this case, we will know. It is a bit of a what came first, chicken and egg sort of thing. That in order to make the project happen, the developers are looking for the support of TIF, but at the same, and they really can't get into the ground then until they know that. But on the flip side, until they work the ground over, it's hard to know the exact costs. The costs that we've been supplied do outline several things from, again, some soil movement, putting some clay liners under building structures to ensure gases don't flow up. Those are a little bit more fixed and a little bit more easy to say with certainty that those will be incurred. But we do anticipate, within, I would say, 60 to 90 days of the project commencing, being able to really identify that, because that's one of the first things that will happen with this project. So it does remain a little bit open-ended today, but we are going to really close the gap on what that actual expense is at the onset.
And the city has the option to do that once we know?
Yeah. It's a little bit of a precedent, but we are working some things. We've got our internal attorney, some outside counsel as well, making sure that we're structuring this in such a way that again, early on, that we are diligent in identifying these and trying to move them from variable cost to fixed costs as far as projecting out the payments of the TIF over time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Chairman.
Any?
The open-endedness of the costs, does that suggest that you're not exactly sure what the contaminants are, or do you have a pretty good idea?
It's both. There's an idea of where they are, but things change as far as water tables. Something that tested at one level last March, because of the lower water tables, might have increased the concentration of a harmful chemical, or it may have decreased that. As well as, it's a little bit harder to determine how deep it goes and how far, like, any plumes or anything like that would spread out. So we've got quite a few maps kind of drawing speculative, but you don't know if that entire speculative area is accurate. You don't know if that entire area means it's 20 feet deep through its entirety, or maybe it's 20 feet deep at its worst point, but it's only 2 feet on the edges. So I guess there's an idea, but there's still some variables involved.
Mr. Chair, Brent, and it's capped at $4.9 million, so if it's under that, TIF district runs a shorter amount of time. If it's over that, developer has to eat those costs, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Brent? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the petitioner here?
He is the petitioner.
Brent is the petitioner.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh,
Good evening, Todd Meyer Henry. I represent, I'm from Sioux Falls, represent the Dunham Companies. And I've been in every meeting that we've met, and kind of am an expert on TIF in South Dakota, so I can answer any of your questions and give examples of other communities and what they're doing also. This is the first of 2 public meetings of which the public and the other taxing districts have an opportunity to show up and comment on the proposed TIF. All taxing districts have been sent notice by the city, and I think they will be contacted directly after this hearing and go through it in more detail. What the Planning Commission does is recommend the creation of TIF. If they do not recommend the creation at this meeting, it dies and it doesn't go on. So there is some power the Planning Commission has. If they do recommend it, it goes up to the City Council. They get to determine, and solely within their discretion, of whether they create a tax increment district or not. Also, the Planning Commission, because of state law, develops a plan, or develops, with the assistance of staff, a tax increment plan and sends it up to the City Council for determination and approval. And if they don't like the plan, they may send it back for modification, or they could reject it like this commission could. What a tax increment plan does is gives notice to the public of the boundaries of what is going to be done. Not only the legal boundaries, but basically what are the outside limits of how long the TIF is going to be, what is the maximum amount it could be, et cetera, and you do not go over those limits. In this specific project, it's been very, very interesting due to the fact that the site used to be contaminated and is now, because of that contamination, tainted, at least when you ask a contractor to give you a hard and set price, they don't want to. Because of just recently with CNA, the city's project downtown, the geotechnical issues that arise, you know, the wells may say that it's clean for EPA purposes, but that does not necessarily mean that there's not oil in the ground or substandard fill, because a lot of fill was taken out of that, or a lot of soil was taken out of that area and fill was brought in. And until you get into the soil and start digging it up, if you find any contamination, you're going to have to deal with it. And if you find soil that isn't sufficient to put a foundation down, they're going to have to take it out down to where it's good. And anytime you start moving tons and tons of dirt, it's very expensive. And so in addition to that, one of the key items is because there's contaminants in the soil and everyone knows it, those contaminants will rot different types of pipe and also will turn into gas like at the dump and bubble up. Well, you do not want that bubbling up through your building and into a commercial area. So a lot of these sites will have to be under a liner will have to be put underneath the buildings, the ponds, so that all of these contaminants are held down and will not leak up, whether in liquid or gaseous form. And that is a significant expense to develop this type of piece of property. And so that's what you'll see in those expenses. And as we had contractors look at this closer and closer, you can imagine their numbers went up because when they bid this, they don't get bids that are going to say, yeah, if there's more than you think's down there, that's the contractor's problem. They go, no, we'll bid it, and if we find this, we'll have to fix it. So with that, I'll answer any questions, and Don will answer any questions also, although he said he didn't want to. But
Commissioners, would there be any questions for Todd? Todd, I think what I'm... Oh, excuse me, Jesse.
Sorry, Kenny, I have a question. Is this TIF critical to the project happening?
yes.
So it's not going to happen. You don't get the TIF. This project doesn't happen.
This is one that, and I think we met with the city, and that was a question that was also asked directly. This is a but for. It will not go but for the economic assistance with the TIF due to some of the costs that are over and above the normal costs of development.
I understand, though, the land is considerably priced accordingly.
Mm-hmm. But it's still significant expense. And the developers will not proceed without assistance.
Todd, the way this has been explained, I believe there's a ceiling on this at $5.4 million. If the cost of cleaning this up in a best case scenario is less than that, and I suppose it would depend on the type of bids that you guys look at and entertain, the TIF becomes reduced by whatever that amount is.
I believe that's what the city is.
In a worst case scenario, if it were to be more than this, the developer
Correct, and they have
taking on the responsibility of paying the differential from this to whatever the cost might end up being.
Right. Even with the TIF, there's $800,000 to $900,000 over and above, which are environmental potential costs that the investors know that they'll have to pick up.
Okay. Thank you.
And I wanted to answer your question on the why the TIF is a little longer. And the reason for that is because there's a tail. The city tail is on the end of this. Right now, you could definitely say this is 15, looks like it will pay off in 12, but the city wants to be reimbursed for some public infrastructure, and I believe that if it's their money, then they will stretch it out to make sure that they get reimbursed.
I just want to clarify one more thing. Regardless if it's 5.4, 2.4, 3.4, the city's exposure is 85% to whatever that number is. Okay.
Any other questions for Todd? Todd, thank you. Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to address item 14 and 15? Seeing none, Chair would entertain a motion.
On 14,
Yes, Dennis.
move approval of 14.
We have a motion to approve item number 14. Would there be a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Does anyone have any thoughts or ideas in regarding to this particular item? I guess not. All in favor will signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Item 14 passes. I believe we've covered 14 and 15, but we do need a motion for item number 15.
Mr. Chair, I make a recommendation for approval of item 15 for the project boundary for the tax increment.
We have
TIF
a
17.
motion. Would there be a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor will signify by saying yes.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 16.
Commissioners, this is Jason Bieber with the Sioux Falls Planning Office. This is petition number 09-14, rezoning of roughly 30 acres from the I-1, I-2 industrial districts and the RD residential district to the RS2 residential district. The purpose of this rezoning is to construct a new single-family residential development. It is located east of North Cliff, north of First Street, and south of the railroad. The submitted concept plan that the applicant has provided with us is indicating accesses, one access onto North Cliff, an access off of North Blauvelt Avenue, and access off of East Tracy Lane. The initial concept plan is indicating 93 potential single-family lots with setbacks, 25-foot front yard setbacks, 25 rear, and 5 on the sides. They are also indicating a 1.02 acre park in the eastern portion of this development. The subject property will be zoned to reflect the comprehensive plan. The proposed single-family residential development is compatible with current residential uses to the north, east, and south. And because the subject application conforms to the Shape Sioux Falls 2035 plan, and the proposed single-family development will be compatible with adjacent residential uses, staff does recommend approval of the rezoning. And I will entertain any questions you may have on this.
Jason, before I ask commissioners for questions, I just want to clarify, this piece of property currently has 3 or 4 different zoning.
It has 3, I-1, I-2, and RD.
And what we're doing is taking those 3 away and making an RS2.
Yep, the whole 30 acres, or roughly 30 acres.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Fellow commissioners, would you have any questions for Jason?
Jason, I see that there were a couple emails looked from neighbors. I think it appears that they were thinking it was going to be changed to light industrial, which obviously it currently is. Were you able to get a hold of them?
I spoke to them a couple times on the phone, and I thought I explained it well. I guess maybe they didn't understand by the email. I believe they weren't going to be able to make it tonight, but I did indicate to them that, you know, this is the first hearing there. They will be going to the city council for a first and second reading. If, you know, they still feel like they would like to speak against this, they can be at those meetings. But with their email, they wrote, it kind of indicates that they think industrial's going in here, which isn't the case.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jason? Hey, Jason. Is the petitioner here?
Don Dunham, 230 South. What's that for?
That's to keep you in line if I need to.
Don Dunham, 230 South Phillips Avenue. I'd like to answer any questions. I think we've been before you on this matter 3 or 4 times, but I just, we're excited about it, and we're still working on getting it approved with South Dakota Housing Authority, but we're making some good progress. And all the neighbors I've talked to out there are really excited about it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Don? Don, you had a neighborhood meeting and
Oh, absolutely.
went well?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Don? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to address item number 16?
Matt Eggert, 1022 North Van Epps Avenue.
I'm sorry, would you say your name again?
Matt Eggert.
Matt, okay.
I guess I didn't know there was a community meeting on it. I might have missed that, but I guess I have a question for Don. The berm there at the end of like all the streets, the dead end, is that being cut back or shrunk or taken out?
That's a very good question. And only where we want to leave that if we can, because it's a great buffer between the 2 developments. But wherever we have to cut it in to get access to the development in accordance with the city engineer's requirements, then it'll be cut in through the street. Okay. But no other streets will we. They'll continue to be blocked off.
Okay. That's all I have.
Steve, I know you tried to arrow where that at. Is that in the dark green here? Is that what they're referring to? And I think we answered that question. Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to address this issue?
My name is Jennifer Trotter. I live at 2004 East First Street, which is over on the other side. But I guess I would like to see a bigger park. That's where we're such a big park city, and a 1.2 acre for 90-some houses that probably will all have kids. I guess I would like to see something bigger playground or something like that. I don't know what they were planning on that, so just a question.
Thank you, Jennifer. Don, can you address that?
Absolutely. We originally had a 3.5 acre park. The City of Sioux Falls said they would not allow over a 1 acre park, because the City of Sioux Falls didn't want to maintain it. I think there's a 2 acre requirement. If it's over 2 acres, the city has to maintain it or something, and they wanted to keep it around the 1 acre. No, we originally had a 3.5 acre park there.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Is there someone else here that'd like to address this? Come on up.
Randy Helwig, 716 North Highland. I just had a couple things. The berm they were talking about, the old railroad, that's nice. I'm hoping it's kind of cleaned up when they do it. And the other thing on the park deal, as they addressed, on that side of town, we are really hurting for parks versus other parts of town. I don't know. I'm trying to think where we have a decent-sized park. We have Whittier. We have the one on 6th and Lewis. But you look at those parks, what are they? Half a block, maybe a block, the Whittier, but that's the school and stuff. I understand the city's view on it and everything, but our side of town really needs a decent park that people can use. Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you for coming up, Brandy.
You bet.
Was there anyone else here that wanted to address item number 16?
Mr. Chair, can I
Yes.
ask Jason to come back?
Absolutely.
Jason, what do you know about the Parks Department in this conversation?
I haven't heard anything back from them on this. I guess I wasn't aware of their acre requirement, but that's definitely something we can talk to them about.
Could we
Tomorrow.
stipulate that that gets a second look before the final development plan has come back, even probably before the initial development comes back? That I think we need Parks to strongly take a look at that. I think probably the initial plan was probably the best, and
Well, they will have to, I believe, come back for a preliminary subdivision plan and all that stuff.
right.
So.
How about we have a decision at that time, or maybe somebody from Parks could appear?
Sure. I can definitely contact them tomorrow, and I guess I don't know who said that to Don, or I will figure it out though.
Thank you.
Jason, for these folks here that have a question about that, who could they contact in regards to their concern about a park? I'm assuming the park department.
Yeah, I would think Parks and Forestry, probably the administration.
Would there be a
over on
particular
6th.
person they could perhaps
I
address?
don't know offhand, but if anybody wanted to contact us, I can definitely get that number and pass it along to them.
Would you be good enough to maybe go back? I think those folks are all kind of together there. Give them your name and phone number.
Yep, no problem.
And where they could maybe call you tomorrow and tell them who they could call and talk to about it.
Yep.
I think that's about, all we can do in regards to a park, but. Okay. Thank you, Jason. Any other questions for Jason? Thank you. Anyone else here that would like to address item number 16? Seeing none, Chair would entertain a motion on item number 16.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 16. I'd like to add a stipulation that park concept is reviewed with the developer and the city parks department, and that a member of the parks department is here.
You know what? There's something in my mind. Can we add stipulations to rezones?
No, I don't think we can.
Okay, then I'm just going to strongly recommend that before it comes back that there's a better answer for these.
Yep, I will contact the Parks Department, and I will let you know as soon as I get an answer back from them. I can email
Thank you,
it out to
Jason.
you guys. Yep, no problem.
Jesse, I know where you were coming from there, but Nick was kind enough to raise his eyebrows at me, and I think he knows
Nick's
the
got
rules.
a lot younger brain than I do.
Would you care to make the motion without a stipulation?
Yes.
We have a motion. Would there be a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. I think you folks understand we're limited to what we can do or say about a park, but I think with their help, they'll get you in touch with the right people.
And the other place you can always go is to contact your city councilor.
Yeah, the representative of your district.
Commissioner Anderson, is that his district?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor will signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 16 passes. Item number 17.
Good evening. Sam Trebelcock, City of Sioux Falls Planning Office. I want to mention one thing. We're going to talk about right off the front, changes with the zoning ordinance. What happens when we go from the current one to this new one? One thing we were just talking about in this last segment, this last item. With the new zoning ordinance, you could actually stipulate and do a conditional rezoning. That would be allowed and is an allowable item. So this one you can't. The new one you could. So that's one difference. I just
Sam,
right here and came right to the front of my mind. So
before you get started, how far along are you with this? We're hearing a lot about it.
Yep.
What
no,
do you
that's exactly what we'll go through.
Is that?
Yep.
That's what we're looking at tonight.
Well, yeah, and we're going to talk about kind of the timeline for that. Here, go to the next. We're going to jump out of one.
Very cool. They must have turned the air on just like you wanted to.
So we want to see where we're at with the public involvement process that we have right now. And we talked about this a little bit at the informational meeting last month, as you might remember. This is very important for you guys, obviously, because you're going to be working with this new ordinance for quite some time. August we talked about generally, where we've been and where we're headed. Now we're at the point, now we've started and we've rolled out that full ordinance in a lot of different ways, and I'm going to talk about that tonight so you guys kind of have an idea. Each one of you might want to review it at a little different way and a little different extent. And we've provided a lot of different options, I think, for you guys and also for the public. What we've done so far is we've met with the study group, and we did the same type of presentation, except it was an hour and a half long, much longer than I'm going to give you tonight. So if you're interested in coming to some of those study group meetings, certainly let me know. We can get you that information for the next meeting. Next thing that we really have coming here real soon, and you might have seen this already, is we have an open house to help people start to understand what the new ordinance includes and start rolling that out to them and how they can review it. That open house is next Tuesday, October 9th from 4:30 to 6:30 at the Orpheum. It's actually right within the Ann Zabel Theater. So there'll be a presentation, I think, at 5:30. Short presentation, just kind of get everybody pointed in the right direction and get some of their questions answered. Obviously, another place you can review it right now is on the web. I'll show you where it is on the web. Again, a lot of different options to look at. What we'll be then doing in October, we talked about this already a little bit, but I'll quickly go through this from last month. In October, we're going to be rolling out that zoning map. Just getting that finished up for staff review, and then we'll be bringing it to the Planning Commission here, then also out to the public, so they can start looking at it. And of course, with any zoning ordinance major changes, there are going to be changes to the zoning map. Most of the changes that we have are just to make sure that people can still develop the land as it was intended. We'll have an open house at that time also after, again, it'd be something similar to what we're doing this month. In November, that'll be kind of the month where we start looking at what is the public saying, what are you saying as a planning commission, what are we hearing, what kind of changes do we still need to make. A lot of changes there, and so certainly we want to continue working with the public and you at the Planning Commission to tweak and come up with the best possible zoning ordinance. And we'll do that also at City Council, meeting with them at the Land Use Committee level and at City Council informationals. In December, we're hoping to move forward, if everybody's still comfortable with the ordinance, and then moving it to the more formal process, the public hearing process with Planning Commission and then City Council. If everything went to plan as this public involvement plan is put together, we would be looking at a new ordinance by sometime in January. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable too with the ordinance. What is Shape Places? Again, Shape Places is a context-based zoning ordinance. Again, that still means it's district-based. It's no different than that it has been in that way. But it's a major update of that from the zoning ordinance from 1983. The new zoning ordinance will provide, again, this is really in a nutshell, but I think it's important to look at some of the goals that we've had, which are more development options, consistent and predictable regulations, new or innovative site planning options, and then a more user-friendly format. What opportunities for review do you have? Again, the study group meetings, we continue to meet, attend those open houses. You can request a presentation. We're already working with the chamber. They might want to do some additional presentations, some in-depth sessions. If you're interested in our office coming out to your group or any group of citizens, we'll certainly do that. Maybe you're interested in just learning more about the residential section. We'll do that. You can review it on the web. And then certainly we would take any other requests that you would have at the Planning Commission level or any other citizens for different ways that we can get the word out to the public. Opportunities for comment. How can you comment back to us at those open houses? Email. At the study group meetings, at those requested presentations, we'll be taking comments at that time, or any other ways that you might see fit. We're certainly looking for ways that you think we might best take comments. Some of the methods that we have on the website right now, we have a document that really, I think, can help you, and I'll go through this with you in a few minutes, the zoning district interface and forms. It'll kind of help you, guide you through the ordinance. If you might see it as a way, as a kind of another technological way of going through a table of contents. Then also we have a document that just kind of lists the big changes, and that's 6 pages. We have a summary of all the changes, which is about 18 pages. When you add on the changes that were to the definitions and conditional use standards, that's 27 pages total. The full ordinance, hang on to your hats, the full ordinance, underline and strike through, is 494 pages. So that's why we give you different options. It's a big document. But it is bookmarked now on the web. So you can go to the different sections if you're interested in a specific section. Now obviously the full ordinance won't be 494 pages. Right now the zoning ordinance, if you look at it in that same format, is 315 pages. The new one would be 271 pages, so it actually is a little bit shorter. So when can we move forward? And we talked about a lot of this to the study group, and kind of the same thing goes for the Planning Commission and City Council. The goal of the study group is to reach a consensus that adequate opportunity for comment has been provided and that the group believes that the process has been fair. We're not necessarily, everybody's going to agree with everything because it's a huge document, but what we want to reach is everybody thinks everybody's been heard, everybody's comment has been heard, and from that we can move forward, and so that we're kind of looking at from that basis. So that made sense to the study group, and that's kind of what we're going to move towards. So what is context-based zoning, and how is this different than what we're doing now? Well, we still have the districts. In the new zoning ordinance, we have 29 proposed districts. Right now there's 19 currently, so we actually do have more zoning districts within the ordinance. But 5 of those are planned unit development districts. And right now we actually have 1 PD district, but as you know, each of those PDs that are formed are different. And there actually is 270 individual PD districts. All of those are being conventionalized. And they'll be fit into either a conventionalized district or into a planned unit development district. So actually there's quite a bit fewer in that if you look at it from that way. What we have in the current ordinance is then you usually look at district and then anything that are uses. Well, we have 127 uses that are kind of scattered throughout those 19 different districts. What we're trying to do within this new ordinance is we're grouping them into common forms. And you say, well, what is a form? Well, form, all the uses within the form generally have the same building size, setbacks, density, parking, and signage standards. So no matter where that form is located, in whatever district it's located, it has the same standards. What we have now, those uses are scattered through the districts, and they could have different parking standards in one district, different the uses might have a different signage standard in another, and it gets to be difficult to understand. So this kind of gets into the user friendliness. It's just how we group things together. And the uses, again, are similar activities, and those uses they're permitted as is, and you see this in the same as they are now, or they're special permitted uses, or they're conditional uses. Now, conditional uses, again, we've looked at in terms of trying to become a more predictable zoning ordinance. We've looked at reducing the number of conditional uses that we have. And right now we've moved from, right now there's 83 conditional uses that you could have. We're down to 8 in this new ordinance. And also with overlay districts, I didn't even bring up overlay districts. And you see that sometimes in design review standard overlay districts. We're moving that from 9 currently down to 1. So we only have 1 overlay district. Again, trying to become more predictable. Now this is kind of what how this looks together. If you look on the left-hand side, you see all the different districts, single-family districts, twin home, townhome, residential district apartments. Those are in brown. Office districts are in blue. Commercial in red. The open space districts in green and so forth. The purple is new. Those are the mixed use districts. That's one of the things we're really looking at bringing forward is more mixed use. Right now we have downtown, which is C3. It'll become a mixed use downtown PUD within the new zoning ordinance. So that's how it'll be zoned. It'll give you as a planning commission more opportunity to look at a planned development within its full master plan. So you'll be looking at initial development plans. More than the final development plans, you won't be looking at those. You'll look at the initial, the full master plan. That'll be how did things interact together? And that becomes much more important, I think, from your perspective. What I'd like to do quickly is just move into that PDF, Steve, and just kind of give you just a quick, what you can do on the web, and the same thing you can do here. No, the PDF there. The PDF there. This is one of the zoning interface, and you can look at this, and you can go in and look at each one of these single-family districts, and you can go in, Steve, go in, look at maybe the RT1, the DD3. The DD3 is a detached dwelling up above. Now this is allowed in a new RT district. It allows a little different setbacks, a little additional density. So you can look at what actually, what this might be and where it's allowed, and then the different regulations. You might zoom in there a little bit, Steve, looking at those other applicable regulations. You can start to see what your signage regulations are, what your parking is, what your fences are, and then eventually we'll have hyperlinks into each one of those sections that are in red. So again, it's going to bring you into the ordinance the way you need to, at whatever level you want to. It'll give you at a summary level or at a much more in-depth level that you want. You can look at it also and, what does it look like when you have these setbacks? What does it mean and how does that kind of look? So that happens, and let's go back to another one, Steve. You have to go back to the top again of this PDF. Nope, back to the PDF. Sorry. Anytime you work within this PDF, you have to go back up to the top to link into it. Just go into a commercial district, going down to, the RE4. That's in a C4 district. Or, either one, click it. And this is just a retail form that's allowed, which is a parking-oriented retail form. In C2, you could also allow for a form that will have the setbacks much closer to the street, and the standards are a little different then, but it allows for both. So again, same thing. You can click into that and see what some of the standards are. So that's something you can look at. It's another way to look at that. If you go back to the presentation, Steve, sorry, he's making his money tonight here with me. And just go to the next one. This is where it is on the internet. This is the information that's there. You can see that it has the full ordinance with the table of content links. It has an executive summary, the background, the forms interfaces, which is what we were just in. The major changes, all the changes, you can look at it all those different ways. A lot of this will also have available at the open house. But like I said earlier to start out with, we wanted to give as many different options for you to review and for the public. With that, I'll take some of your questions too.
Sam, what a task you've taken on here.
Yeah, it's you know, and a lot of those, for instance, I mean, it's been, you know, a lot of those site plans that you saw with the different setbacks, how they lay out, Steve Randall did all of those. Every single one of them, we worked together to get those in. And yeah, it really becomes very interesting to do, though, and it's very much needed, so.
I appreciate, Steve, that we tackled this, or Sam, that we tackled this on our own. Because it is so big, it would have been really costly to have this done all by consultants. And I think the reality of, after we had some consultants looking at it, we knew that we knew our community better than they do. And I think clearly your work here and all the people that worked with you on it clearly shows that. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure there'll probably be questions as we go along and we have an opportunity to review some of this. And
Sam, you might get to sit here and hold our hands after we get it, and so we make the right motions. And
well, and you know, we talked about at the study group level, this is a lot of changes to make, and one of the things that they did mention was, you know, we would feel comfortable if we could kind of continue the review, because after you implement these changes, and I think it happened in '83 too, there were some other changes that needed to take place after that, because as you're implementing, you're going, oh, okay, we got to tweak it here, tweak it there. So they know that after about 6 to 12 months, we should be looking at it again. How is it working? And you know, you guys will be certainly needed to be involved in that process too. Yeah.
Having said that, would anyone else have some questions for Sam?
Mr. Chair, Sam, I do have one. So as far as implementation of this, does this mean everybody's zoning changes as soon as this becomes effective and they get fit into one of the new categories?
Yes. That's why the zoning map is so important to do too, and while I'll come back, is because, you know, everybody will have to check. Not everybody has a zoning change. Right. We've been through it already, but yeah, you want to make sure that you don't, because there's some districts that are gone in name, and then you can't have, for instance, RS1 district and RS2 are coming together into an RS district, and that's it. So you got to go through and change everybody's zone.
Well, and you have to do that because you can't have two separate zonings going on, old ones and new ones, and that just becomes too much of a headache. So.
Right.
I've got some questions, but I think I'll wait and see if I can see the answers.
Well, yeah, and please come to the open house, and you know, if you have questions then as you go through it and start looking at it and start getting a chance on the web, we can do it there too, or you know, the next time I come here too.
Sam, can you notify us when there's going to be other, if we can't make this open house next week, can you let us know when there's going to be other conversations with groups about, specifically about this?
Absolutely, yeah.
Sam, as chairperson, do you think it'd be good for me to pick one of our commissioners to read through this and give a report back to us in total?
I think maybe delve it out in different sections too. Spread the wealth.
Get some reactions.
If you want a motion to that effect, I'll be happy to make the motion.
I was thinking of assigning it to Nick. I don't know. Sam, thank you. I appreciate it. Is there anyone else here that had any comments in regards to item number 17? Steve, Sam, thank you. A lot of good hard work going on there. Item 19.
Jason Bieber again with the Sioux Falls Planning Office, and I will be combining 19 and 20, same project, the final development plan and minor amendment. They are for the Eastern Hills development. The purpose of these two requests is to construct a 3-story apartment, or construct 2 3-story apartment buildings and attached garages, and they're located at 4520 East 53rd Street. The Eastern Hills PD District was created in June of 2009. This parcel is located within Sub-Area A, which allows permitted, special, and conditional uses in the RA1 zoning districts, essentially apartment complexes, high-density residential. The submitted site plan indicates the required setbacks for the buildings of the 25 front, 20 front, and 15 in the side. He is proposing 50 enclosed garage parking spaces and 48 exterior parking spaces for the 2 new apartment complexes, which is more than what the ordinance requires of 72. The minor amendment comes into play when you have more than 2 multiple dwelling buildings on one lot and they're over 3 stories in height. They need to have a setback between them of 40 feet. The corner of that garage and the existing apartment complex is going to be 16.7 feet. That's where he needs his minor amendment. He's also proposing 16 additional trees, which would be required for the 98 proposed parking spaces. The proposed apartment buildings and attached garages are compatible with the existing apartment on the property and the proposed 4-plex townhomes to the east. Because the subject application meets the intent of the sub-area regulations in Eastern Hills Planned Development District and the proposed land use is compatible to the adjacent properties, staff recommends approval of the final development plan and minor amendment with the following conditions. 1, plans approved as submitted. Any changes to the site plan, final design, or layout will be required to be reviewed and approved by the planning director or designee. Substantial changes may require planning commission approval. 2, any outside trash enclosure shall be constructed with similar building materials as that of the main building. 3, exterior lighting fixtures shall be downcast. And 4, no ash or ash varieties shall be utilized to meet the required trees. And then if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
If I can, Jason, so I'm clear in my mind, the 40 to the 16, it's 16 feet from the building to a freestanding garage.
To the attached freestanding garage, correct.
But attached freestanding garage.
Yep.
So it's not building the building, but the garage is being considered.
Yeah, when it was, because the garage is attached, I believe if it was a detached garage, then that probably wouldn't come into play. The proposed apartment complex is also only 33 feet from that existing apartment complex, so regardless, they would need an amendment to go from 40 to 33, so figured we just get it all here with this garage too, so.
And I think I'd asked this question before. Fire department, fire marshal has looked at the plan and has.
Yep, they are currently in the building permit process. I think they're probably getting pretty close to getting a permit as soon as this goes through.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Jason? Thank you. Is the petitioner here?
Doug Haar, Valley Springs, South Dakota. I don't really have anything to add. Just if you have any questions, I'll be willing to answer them.
Would there be any questions for Doug?
Doug, in light of our lack of rental vacancies, when do you look to turn a shovel?
We have a grading permit and they're already doing some grading. So, and I turned in the plan for a plan review yesterday. So
great.
We're moving along pretty good. So hopefully this goes through.
Okay.
Doug,
I think we can
thank
probably
you. I
help
think
with
Jason
that.
did a pretty good job kind of laying it out. Good luck to you. Anyone else here that would like to comment on? We'll take them one at a time. We'll start with item number 19.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 19 with the conditions as read.
We have a motion. Would there be a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor will signify by saying yes.
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 All opposed? Number 19 passes. Item 20. The chair would entertain a motion on item 20.
I'll make a motion on item number 20 for a minor amendment.
Have a motion. Would there be a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes. Is there any other business this evening? If not, Chair would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second? Second. Second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed? We're adjourned.